I'm Samantha Green, 42 years old. I'm an office worker. Up until a year ago, I lived in New York with my husband, but after he became physically disabled due to an accident, we bravely left the hustle and bustle of the city and moved back to our rural hometown. Supported by visiting nurses and medical staff, we fully renovated my parents' house, which had been vacant since their passing, and now we live there. Today is our 4th wedding anniversary. Surely, today of all days, I left work on time, a rarity for me, and headed home. As I quietly opened the front door, the interior was silent. Even peeking into the living room, there were no signs of life, though the lights were on. From the storage room, I could hear whispering voices. Peeking through the ajar door, I saw the shocking silhouette of my husband embracing a woman behind a room divider. My heart skipped a beat, and I almost let out a noise but managed to swallow it down and contain myself. It seemed they were too engrossed to notice me.
Mike, time's up. It's all right, my wife hasn't called yet, and she probably thinks I'm still at work. Stop it. Don't talk about your wife. Rachel, sorry. But I'm gonna be divorcing her soon anyway.
Really?
Yeah, so just hang in there a bit longer. Okay. Just make sure this is only with me, alright? Of course. Since I met you, I've been with no one else. I know about your condition, Mike. So leave everything to me? Rachel, I want to love you too. So, will you be the one to make a move today, Mike?
A secret conversation between my husband and the caretaker. The caregiver, who was meant to support our life, was instead tearing it apart. When renovating, we converted the storage room into a space suitable for a 1-story house. Our house's deepest part, hidden from view and barely used except for storing a few items, has just a small traditional window and no air conditioning. As usual, in the dead of winter, it's freezing cold outside, and there they were, breathing heavily and letting out strange cries, releasing their heat. Completely unnoticed by the pair, I quietly and slowly closed the door and softly locked it from the outside. From the cold back of the house, I returned to the warm living room and sat down on the plush sofa. Looks like today is going to be another anniversary. I turned my face to the ceiling and gently closed my eyes. Mike and I met in New York, and despite coming from different neighborhoods and schools, we bonded over being from the same hometown. We got married 4 years ago, and after enjoying 2 years of married life, we started seriously trying to conceive. Both Mike and I lost our parents early and don't have any siblings. We deeply longed for a family of our own. But shortly after we started trying, Mike was in an accident and ended up paralyzed on one side.
Samantha, I'm sorry.
Why apologize? Just having you alive is a relief for me.
But we had just started trying for a baby.
That's true, but
we're both not getting any younger. We gotta hurry.
Come on, what are you talking about? With today's medical advancements, as long as we keep healthy, something will work out in the near future, right?
Samantha, thank you.
That was me, right after the accident, encouraging Mike. I was still healthy and believed we could make it through. Even if it was just false hope, I needed to keep that mindset or I'd fall apart myself. In reality, things were far from perfect. Life was filled with unexpected events, and we were desperately trying to get back on track. While my husband Mike managed to regain some movement in his limbs after intensive rehabilitation, he couldn't move as well as he hoped.
Samantha, I'm sorry.
There you go apologizing again.
But I can't do anything anymore.
Naturally, Mike had no choice but to quit his job, dealing not only with physical but also considerable mental strain. He often became severely depressed, and there were times when even conversation was difficult. Nevertheless, as the new breadwinner in place of my husband, I had no choice but to go to work every day for our livelihood.
I'll be going then.
Yeah.
I'll call you when I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Soon, the visiting nurse and the caregiver from the service will come, so if you have any trouble, don't hesitate to ask for help or consult with them.
Yeah. I was living a life of work on weekdays and caregiving for my husband on weekends, utilizing all the services I could. Then one day, unusually, Mike brought up a suggestion.
How about we move back to the countryside?
Huh?
Your family home, we still have it. Can't we make it livable?
What brought this on?
Living in the city is becoming too hard for me. Out there, we have more space, and I can take walks in the garden. If we renovate, we can still live in the house, right? Plus, I think moving back to our hometown might help us relax and live more comfortably.
It was a surprising suggestion. I never expected to hear about my family home from my husband's mouth. After my parents passed away, as an only child, I inherited the house, paying the taxes and maintaining it without living there. My husband expressed a desire to live in that house. But the thought of living there seemed right.
Indeed, we did talk about moving back eventually, and if the cramped city life is making Mike suffer, maybe living in the countryside where we grew up might be better for both his body and mind. I feel that way too.
Perhaps the hustle and bustle of city life reminded him of a livelier past. We decided to go back to our hometown.
I'd like the house to be single-story. Maybe expand it a bit, so everything is accessible on one floor.
Sounds good. What about the kids' room? Let's make one. We can use it as a guest room for now.
All right.
With this new hope for a fresh start, Mike began to show signs of improvement day by day. Then, as if by fate, I was transferred to a branch in our hometown, smoothing our transition even more than expected. I've been transferred to the local office, so it looks like I can move with you.
That's great.
It'll be reassuring for Mike to have a familiar caregiver. The visiting caregiver who had been assigned to Mike recently would also be moving with us. Mike had started to smile more ever since she became his caregiver. Regarding the visiting care there are limits to twice-a-week visits. But I know adjusting to a new life can be tough, so I'll drop by in my free time to check on you.
Oh. That's too much.
You have work, Rachel. I want to do it.
Really?
As a woman, I want to support you, who's trying so hard to support her husband. Saying that, the caregiver genuinely seemed to check on Mike frequently after the move. Now, it's clear to me. Pretending to be a kind caregiver, that woman had been planning to break into our lives and destroy them from the beginning. The sudden suggestion from Mike to move to the countryside was all part of her plan to be together. She really fell for it. Really, you're such a wicked woman. Didn't expect to hear that from a bad man like you, Mike. Besides, this was all your idea, wasn't it? Using your wife's family home just so you could be with me more. She thinks the best for me is to live happily. End of story, right? Used her feelings, and secured a place and time to be together. I wish it were a bit more comfortable though. This place has no air conditioning and no outlets. Yeah, it might be a bit tough to use during the dead of winter and the peak of summer. You should have pushed for more, Mike. That's asking too much. After all, I'm imposing on her and using her money to renovate her family home. Maybe, but it's our precious hideout, right? Raising too many suspicions and blowing the plan would have been worse. And as for kids, thanks to her thinking I'm unwell, we haven't proceeded with that. Really? Not at all? Not really. Besides, I've got no intention of staying with the wife or having kids anymore. She has no clue about us, right? Probably not. She seems pretty oblivious to this kind of thing. Then can I stay longer? What? I want to see more of you, Mike. I moved to this branch just for that. Thanks, Rachel. Look, I've even written and prepared the divorce papers. What? Really? Yeah. It's only you I love. One day, just like today, I left work on time and secretly heard the conversation between the two behind the partition in the storage room. Unforgivable. Quietly leaving the storage room and the house, I immediately called the visiting nurse assigned to my husband. What's wrong? Why at this time? How's your husband? The person who approached me as I waited at the cafe was Judy, my friend from my hometown and the visiting nurse in charge of my husband.
Sorry for calling you out suddenly.
That's okay, but what about your husband?
He said he's working late. Actually, I went home for a bit.
What?
I told Judy, who looked surprised about everything up to this moment, and she made a face like she had just bitten into a bitter bug. You knew something, didn't you?
What?
I had a feeling.
Well.
As Judy hesitated, I urged her to continue speaking without concern.
Then I'll tell you, but you've said it before, right? That the caregiver seems too close to your husband.
Yes, you did say that.
Previously, Judy had told me, you should be careful since the caregiver and your husband are getting pretty close. Actually, it's not just being close. She acts like she's the wife or something, moving around the house as if she owns it, and touching your husband way more than necessary for caregiving. That much? To an outsider, they would definitely look like a couple. And my husband? He's all smiles, happy as can be.
I felt dizzy.
What else? You make lunch for your husband before going to work, right?
Yes. Actually, once when I had to use the kitchen for work, I saw that woman cooking there. And in the trash bag next to her, I found the lunch you probably made thrown away.
What?
I couldn't help but stare at the bag. Then she said, "Make sure you keep this a secret from your wife," with a furious look. Probably, she thought that if there were remains of lunch or cooking waste in the trash can, it would give her away, so she took it out in the trash bag.
What else? Now that we're at it, tell me everything you know.
Judy hesitated for a moment, but then shared everything she had seen and heard. The vague changes I had sensed turned out to be a shockingly harsh reality.
What are you going to do? I can't imagine you just backing down.
You know me well.
Of course, I've watched you, who is competitive, since we were teenagers.
That's right, we've known each other for a quarter of a century now.
Yes. And I'll help you. What? As a visiting nurse, not only will I keep an eye on those two, but that woman seems to be from her hometown too. Really?
Yes.
Like from the neighboring city. And there's a bit of gossip about her, so using that, I'll try to find out more using your husband as well. Okay. But remember, it's just cooperation, don't overdo it, okay? I got it.
And so, with Judy's help, my days of revenge against the two of them began. A month later. This morning, after locking the storage room and leaving it overnight, I slowly stood in front of the door. I exhaled softly and turned the key to unlock it. As I opened the sliding door wide, something wrapped in a blanket shuddered as if startled by the noise.
Did I leave something like this in here? What is this, a blanket? Maybe I should uncover it.
My exaggerated voice echoed in the storage room. Every time I spoke, the blanket-wrapped figure trembled. Unconsciously, the corners of my mouth turned up in a twisted smile. I quickly closed the distance and briskly removed the blanket. The two figures left behind shrunk even more as if trying to hide their presence.
What? Who's this? Breaking and entering? I have to call the police.
I slid my finger across the screen of the smartphone I pulled from my pocket. Then one of the huddled figures stood up abruptly and started yapping.
Hey! What do you mean breaking and entering? Can't you see who it is by looking?
It doesn't matter who you are.
If you enter someone's house without permission, it's breaking and entering. But why would it be breaking and entering for Mike and me?
Huh?
Well, he might be different, but you're definitely trespassing. This is my house, in my name. If you moved in without my consent, that's breaking and entering. But I'm a caregiver.
So what?
You're not here on caregiving duties now, are you? And I didn't give you permission.
Yep, that's breaking and entering.
What? You deliberately locked the door. I was just being considerate. What? Last night seemed to be very heated, and it would be bad if the noises that I really didn't want to hear were heard outside, right? So, out of consideration, I made sure you could have your private world by locking the door. In my words, my husband went pale and the woman turned red with rage. Well, no matter what faces they make now, it's too late to affect me. I continued without changing my expression. By the way, did we have such a blanket? What? And that thin mattress? You might have forgotten after buying it and stuffed it into the storage room, right? Me forgetting something I bought? You know very well I would never do that. No! And such a lovely pattern, neither of us would ever buy that, right? That is. She bought it, right? I know she has been staying over without permission multiple times. What? Did you think I didn't know? You might have been hiding it, but did you not think I'd realize something was up when items began appearing in the almost empty storage room? Items? This woman's personal belongings. Bit by bit, unfamiliar items started appearing, and most of them were women's items. Obviously, anyone would notice, right? That much? Didn't you notice? This woman's "I'm Mike's number one" kind of dominating behavior? I thought they were Samantha's. I thought she was just using them without asking. Why would I use your wife's things? Why are you speaking so arrogantly? Sorry. I wouldn't buy such lovely patterns, and I have no reason to store cosmetics or clothes in the storage room. Did that accident affect your brain too? Hey! That's harsh. What's harsh on you, right? Or rather, aren't you the one? A caregiver getting involved with a client? That is. Pretending to help me, a person who's struggling both mentally and physically, but actually coming to destroy my family, I think that's the lowest act a person could do. What do you think? The woman couldn't hide her irritation with my calm tone. Continuing with a provoking tone, the woman finally snapped. How dare you, leaving your husband to others and now you talk big. I've been supporting Mike fully in your place. It's only natural that he loves me for that. You're a caregiver, right? You're being paid to work for us, aren't you? Doesn't seem like a normal thought process for someone whose profession is caregiving. You would think so, that much. So, are you having this kind of relationship with everyone you meet through work? Do all other caregivers do the same? That is. Of course not, right? At least, the caregiver who came before you genuinely cared for us as a couple without any selfish motives. It was such a shame she had to leave suddenly. It was unnatural how you took over. Why did you become our caregiver? That's what the company decided. Really? Huh? Did the company really decide that? Why are you asking that now? Don't you think your transfer here was too smooth? Normally, they don't transfer caregivers just to continue service. I asked around my friends in the caregiving and medical field. So what? The too smooth shift and your transfer, there's something behind it, don't you think? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? The glare and the harsh words thrown at me by the woman were surprisingly shaky. I let out a smirk and faced her again. That person, the visiting nurse, she's a friend from my high school. What? Really? Yes. I hadn't told Mike, but actually, that's true. And, my friend told me, you're from the neighboring city, right? Huh? That look, Mike didn't know either. She went to nursing school in the neighboring city, did a caregiving internship at a certain facility. That facility turns out to be the one we're using now, and it's run by your family, isn't it? Really? Yes, that's what I heard. And your parents opened several offices in New York just for you, and we were under their care. When the regular caregiver fell ill, you came in her place once, right? Whether you took a liking to my husband then, or something else caught your interest, you decided you had to become our caregiver no matter what. Then, using your privilege, you managed to change your assignment and wiggled your way into our lives, right? That's just your speculation, right? Would be nice if it were just speculation. But, I got testimony from the people at your current office. I have old acquaintances there. Huh? Small towns, right? Looks like I hit the mark this time. The forced change of your assignment and your pressing transfer, I got it all as testimony. Do you think that's okay? What? That person, they're employed by our company, right? Spreading rumors about a member of the managing family, you think that's going to slide? Oh, so that's the kind of power harassment you're playing at? Huh? That's power harassment, right? If it happens within the company. That is. Anyway, your company won't be able to continue as it is now, so I guess it's not a problem. Huh? What do you mean? You are after our money, right? Huh? You heard from my husband about being adopted into the family and that his hometown is here, right? Then it clicked for you. After all, you're a business owner's child. Everyone knows the Greens around here are well known and wealthy, and you approached my husband, aimed to get us divorced, and planned to take the assets in the divorce settlement. What? What kind of baseless accusations are those? That's an insult. An insult. Is it? I've heard about similar cases in the past. What? I heard from my friend that among the visiting nurses working with your company, there have been talks about you pulling money from clients. No way! The clients you were sent to are mostly business owners or the wealthy, and it's pretty clear to the other nurses that you're unusually close to the clients. Some have even seen you being trusted with managing their money or being handed bundles of cash. You've been married 3 times, and all your spouses were wealthy older men who didn't have long to live. Each marriage lasted about a year before the spouse passed away, and you inherited the assets each time. The reason you don't need to work hard, live in a nice place, drive a nice car, and wear nice clothes is because you've been gaining illicit wealth through your job as a caregiver. If you were trying to leech off our family, that would be terrible, wouldn't it, Rachel? The woman was so shocked that she looked as if her eyeballs might fall out, losing all color in her face. Next to her, my husband was shaking his eyes uncertainty, not sure if he heard everything correctly. It's a joke, right? Do I look like someone who would joke about this? No. You should understand this situation the best, right? You've been deceived by this woman. I'm not deceiving anyone. I really love Mike. That's why it's different from the others. Different from the others, huh? So, you admit there were others? No. Which is it? I'm saying. Either way, if it weren't after money, you wouldn't have approached him, right? Then, it's the same as before. At my words, the woman fell silent. Rachel, Mike murmured quietly, looking at her. His swaying eyes now held a shadow of doubt. Falling silent is an answer. Is that it? I'm sorry. Rachel. I'm sorry. But with Mike, it's different than before. How is it different? What makes it different? It all came down to money, right? But with Mike, it wasn't just about money. An argument I didn't want to see unfolds right before my eyes. So what? That's their problem, not mine. Can you discuss this later between you two? Huh? Whatever happens to your relationship, it's none of my business. Huh? It has to be your business. We're still married, you're involved. Not anymore, we're strangers now. That can't be. Unless we're divorced, you and I are still husband and wife. We are divorced. Huh? We're already in the process of divorcing. I signed the divorce papers you prepared and submitted them. When? Last night. What? Yesterday, right here, you said it, didn't you? We're going to get divorced soon. Huh? So, I took it upon myself to submit everything. I'm here to inform you that the divorce has been finalized. You're lying. Why would you do that? Why? Because it's what you've always wanted, isn't it? How many times did you tell that woman you were going to divorce me? You've been saying it since we moved here, right? The divorce papers are ready. What? Surprised? Didn't you realize I'd noticed your affair a long time ago? No way. You're joking, right? You too, it was obvious. Lost in your own world, not even noticing when I came back home. Even in front of the visiting nurse, you couldn't hide your relationship. Aren't you too old to be living in a fantasy world? They probably never imagined I had been aware of their affair for so long. With the matter of the divorce papers, both their faces turned ashen. Finding the situation increasingly amusing, I couldn't hold back my laughter. My unexpected laughter made my husband, or rather ex-husband, snap at me. "What are you laughing at? There's nothing funny here." "There's plenty of fun here. I mean, I just got you divorced, shouldn't you be happier?" "I didn't ask you for that." "Really? So you never intended to divorce me? Can you declare that in front of her?" "That is." "Mike, aren't you happy? The annoying woman is gone, and we can be together." "Hooray, right." "Right? But, unfortunately for you two, there's hardly any assets left to divide." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Oh? Didn't you know? This man got into debt, used up all the household money, and filed for bankruptcy." "What?" "The accident happened because he was stressed from work, went gambling, crossed the street ignoring the traffic light in frustration, and got hit. A totally self-inflicted accident. Did you not know?" "But Mike said it was an unexpected accident. And the money, he's been working hard for it." "That hard-earned money has all been wasted on gambling and hobbies, and I found out after that accident that he almost depleted our savings, which he left under your care. Don't you think it's terrible? He's been deceiving me from the start." "No. What he's done is just like what you did. After becoming incapable, he finally opened up." "Right, Mike?" My ex-husband looked away uncomfortably, avoiding the woman's gaze, showing an unrepentant expression. "So, there's no money you were hoping for left here. This man has squandered it all." "Huh? But what about your assets? You inherited everything from your parents as their only daughter." As expected, she'd bring that up. I decided to enlighten these two on something they obviously didn't understand. Indeed, I did inherit assets from my parents. But, unfortunately, the assets I inherited are not subject to division in a divorce settlement. "What?" "Inheritance belongs solely to the person who received it. Assets to be divided in a divorce are those acquired during the marriage by both parties. So, the inheritance I received doesn't get shared with you, and the assets left after the divorce due to my ex-husband's actions are minimal. So, with those minimal assets, please leave this house." The two were lost for words at the shocking truth, muttering incoherently, their eyes drifting aimlessly. Yet, the ex-husband, having some late realization, tried to convey an apology. "Samantha, I'm sorry. I really messed up. Can we wait a bit before leaving right now?" "Why?" "Why? Because look at my situation. Plus, I have nowhere to go. You, being the kind-hearted person you are, wouldn't just throw me out, right?" What is this man talking about? I really don't want him relying on me now. If you're going to rely on someone, why not your caregiver cum lover standing right there? I'm a stranger now. Huh? Strangers, right? We're divorced. I have no obligation to support or protect you anymore. Especially since you never intended to be protected by me. So, now you can openly rely on her. That's not fair. I can't take all that on. Pushing off? After all your attempts to take from others, what do you mean pushing off? I don't have that kind of leeway. You have plenty, don't you? What? You've inherited a decent fortune from your 3 divorces. You're living in a nice apartment close to the station, right? Take him there. Avoiding eye contact, biting her lips, I felt nothing but disgust for her as a woman. Well, I can't say I understand, but the fact she's managed to exploit men this way could be seen as commendable in a twisted sense. You planned to acquire him just the same, didn't you? Then please, take responsibility properly. But otherwise, I will sue you. What? For multiple instances of trespassing, misusing and breaking others' property, embezzlement. I haven't embezzled anything. Didn't you throw away the meals I made for Mike and use the kitchen without permission? Huh? The kitchenware used at that time, some of it ended up broken. My friend has witnessed you cooking in the kitchen several times. Mike can't cook. Inevitably, you're the only one who could have broken them. Should I call the police and have them take fingerprints? After saying that, she even had to shut up and clenched her back teeth before getting my former husband up. For now, please take whatever you need. The rest will be sent to your place later. Huh? The lawyer's office that has been serving my family since my grandfather's time already knows about various things. So, your address is well known to them, don't worry about it. With that, she realized anything further was futile. She hastily gathered the necessary items for my physically challenged ex-husband, jumped into a taxi she had called earlier, and left in a hurry. Alone in the spacious house. It's over. My soft murmur echoed surprisingly loudly. 2 months have passed since then. Today is the day I move into the house that has been renovated again. After the two left, I discussed with the knowledgeable Judy and my friends and decided to renovate the house in a style I like, making it a chic and comfortable space. It's completely changed, hasn't it? Judy, who came to help with the move, said. Well, yes. Last time living comfortably was the priority, and we were in a hurry, so the interior was secondary. Rushed by, to be more accurate. Well, yes. Judy, still filled with indignation over the events, was unabashed in her pointed remarks whenever the topic arose. But, it's a blessing in disguise. As someone working together in this field, it's really a relief to see such a troublesome caregiving company disappear. Who knew the company's misdeeds would come to light? The rumors about that woman and the turmoil this time served as triggers, revealing various stories surrounding her. It was wrong for them to be able to run the business so smoothly till now. True to those words, the company run by that woman's family and relatives, after that incident, was exposed for corruption and quickly spiraled into poor management. Before anyone knew it, they folded the company like they were running away, and the whole family disappeared. Of course, that included that woman too, and the apartment she lived in near the station is apparently now up for sale. Anyway, I'm just glad that man is gone. I feel so refreshed. That makes sense. Who would have thought your husband was such a person? Right. I had no idea until that accident. If I had known, I wouldn't have married him. That's true. You seem like someone who would hate that kind of deceit. Exactly. He turned out to be the same kind of badger as that woman. Realizing that after the accident and him not being able to easily agree to divorce because of his physical condition and lack of money, ending up without a hassle because she took him was honestly a relief for me. Master strategist, you are. Using the villain to your advantage. Hey! That's too harsh, isn't it? I should have been seen as a benefactor, who, even after he squandered our savings and declared bankruptcy, I didn't abandon him. Instead, I took care of him when he became disabled, renovated our home, and continued to be a wife. True, but... well, calling me a strategist might not be wrong. After all, I did end up deceiving both of them. Oh. You're wrong. You just gave an eye for an eye. Only a strategist could take on such responsibility without flinching. While I say thank you to Judy, the truth is I used her. I used this affair to distance myself from my husband. To leave a husband who had been drowning in gambling until nearly 50, consumed by debt, and who had ultimately filed for bankruptcy. You did great. You dedicated your prime years and money for such a man. Exaggerating. No, I'm serious. You even went through fertility treatments, right? For him to have deceived you from the start, he deserves to fall into hell. Well, yeah. I don't care what happens to those two anymore, but just being freed from it all makes me completely satisfied. Judy groaned and then firmly grasped my shoulder, declaring loudly. I'll introduce you to a good man. I can't trust your judgment anymore, so I'll recommend someone for you. No thanks, I just got divorced. That's why. Huh? There's someone who's been waiting for you to get divorced. Really? Judy then showed me her phone, and on the screen was a photo of someone I knew. Well? Yes. That's your high school mate. Why? Actually, before I moved to nursing, I worked with him.
Really?
My husband is working at the same place. That's why we three used to go out for drinks quite often.
I had no idea.
My husband is still working with him, and he's been really worried about you after this incident.
I see.
So, how about we go out for drinks next time, the four of us? Or a dinner gathering is fine too. Come on, let's go. That person was someone I had a slight crush on back in high school. He went to a local medical school, and I moved on to a university in New York, and we hadn't been in touch since. Now, thanks to Judy, that old, faint feeling was being revived, making me feel inexplicably bashful. Samantha, silence means consent. Saying so, Judy slid her finger on her smartphone, and before I could react, she had set up a 4-person dining event. Then I noticed my phone was ringing. Judy, what's this? I created a group chat for the 4 of us, and I've invited you. What? Strike while the iron is hot. Come on, type a message quickly. Judy leaned in, putting pressure on me as if she was pushing me into action. Feeling a rush of warmth for Judy's sincere concern, I reluctantly said, okay, understood, hiding my embarrassment. What should I type? I don't have any grand notions of love or romance right now, but the excitement of reconnecting after so long made me smile broadly as I began typing the first message.